Hi everyone and welcome to the new Digital Labcast episode. I am having a special guest here today from Sweden, Marcus Oledal. Welcome, Marcus.
Thank you.
It's great to have you as a guest here. Could you first introduce yourself shortly?
Yes, my background is technical. I was working with the cavitation physics at the university and managed to get the PhD out of that. But I very early got involved in simulations, and I realized that this is something I would like to continue to work with. So I kind of quickly moved into the business side of simulations and started to sell it to the Nordic market. And I've been working as a key account manager and sales manager for many years. So, and that's how I ended up with EDR Medesso ultimately.
You have been working with simulation maturity for some time. Could you tell us what does simulation maturity really mean?
Yeah, it's quite difficult in the sense that we are trying to measure in soft values mainly. We're talking about strategies, about organization, management, and all that. And to some extent, it's also like technology related. What kind of physics do you simulate, and so on. But the way we do it is as with any, let's say, maturity, digitalization maturity tests. You make a survey, you roll it out to a broad audience of people, and you get feedback. So the questions have to be quite specific and measurable, but you actually get really good results out of it.
So what does it look like when you have completed a simulation maturity survey?
It looks like this. This is a typical example of an outcome when working with a specific customer. So we get all the individual answers, which are the blue dots, and we get the average. So this is the typical result you get out of the survey.
When you have the results, what do you use it for?
Yeah, you also get this one, and you typically use it for. Let me go back to this slide again. You use it for two things. First of all, you need to have a common understanding of where you are, and as you see, the individuals here they differentiate quite a lot between the guy who is most like think the company is very mature to someone here who thinks they are really lagging behind. We use the results to make sure that we have a common starting point for any change management project. If we are at 1.9, as in this case, and we want to be at 3.5 in 3 years' time, what do we need to do, or where is the starting point for us? But we also look at we could also get the priorities or areas where there is a really lack of maturity. In this case, for example, standardization stands out. And in this specific case, there was no way that one department could reuse knowledge from another department because they use different ways of working, different tools. There was no interaction between the two. So these are typically the ways you can use the results.
Can you give an example for some specific area, for example, training?
Yeah. I think it's for training, it's interesting to see that when we are on the really low maturity level, we teach our customers what to do, how to do it, and what kind of tools to use, and meshing technologies, you name it. Whereas on the high maturity side, it's about the learning experience for all parties. So, for example, we recently launched the Medesso training portal. That's typically for technical training in one way or the other. It could be tips and tricks. It could be half-day trainings in a specific area. And it could be like technology briefs. This is how you can simulate a valve, for example. But it's interesting to see that the most advanced consulting projects we do today, they include both teaching. We learn our customers how to use the tools for a specific, very high-level technology problem, but we also learn that how should this environment look like to make it possible to run such a project. So it's really the full scale, and you can quickly see what kind of partnership you need with the customer to be successful in a high technology business consulting project, for example. And at the very top, we don't know. We don't know how to do things, and the customer don't know. So that's why we host this event, Simulation Leadership Forum, to make sure that there is an ongoing discussion about it.
That's very interesting. I understand that there is also an online version of the survey. Is that correct?
That is almost correct, Ella. It is online. It's online for me and a few others, but it's actually an area where we will launch quite soon. Let me share my screen again so you can see what it looks like. It's actually it's a simplified version, you can say. We have 10 questions. We answer these questions as good as we can, and these questions are related to strategies and management and technology and how you're organized and all bits and pieces, what kind of compute resources you have access to, and so on. So it's 10 quite straightforward questions. When you submit your answers, you will get immediate feedback on where you are on the maturity curve. So in this case, 2.2, which is not very impressive, but I think it's kind of a very normal position these days. Most companies have moved from using simulation as a firefighting tool to something that actually makes a difference for the business as well in some way or the other. So this is the first result. You get your result compared to everyone else that has filled out the survey. But you also get this quadrant that is based on MIT research on digital capabilities and digital leadership. We have applied the same thinking to simulation, and we also talk about fashionistas here, companies that invest in simulation tools, but they don't have a clear plan, and companies who invest much less, but they have a clear plan where they want to be. And what we see is typically these companies, from MIT research, it has been shown that these companies, they grow the market share, but they do very poor profits. Whereas these conservative companies, they lose market share, but maintain or even increase the profits. So it's quite an interesting observation. What stands out is that the simulation masters, as we have chosen to call them, they gain market share, and they also make it more profitable than the rest of companies. So it's quite interesting to see how this maturity test with 10 questions, you can quickly get quite a lot of initial feedback on where you are.
How do you then work with your customers to get business benefits from the simulation maturity test?
Yeah, maybe I should share my screen once more. This is the process we follow. I mean, we use in the first step in any kind of change management project, we work with the customer to understand the current. Where are you today? So we work, of course, with the simulation maturity survey. We work with the interviews. You get to get all these nuances that are behind the data we collect. And we look into the key business initiatives within the company. We analyze the data, and then we meet in a workshop setting where we share our understanding of the data we have collected. And we discuss how can we take this data, how can we use it to find the future position where we want to be, how can we make an actionable plan and make a simulation roadmap, and how can we find a business case that would support this journey. And my experience is that it's a really wise choice to find a pilot project where you really can work with a dedicated team to make sure that you get the plan, the roadmap, and you get the business case that supports it, because that opens up for the whole company to look into it as a different way to develop to be more aligned with the future way of developing things.
Can you give examples where customers have benefited from high simulation maturity in these Corona times?
Yes, I was expecting that question, so I have prepared this one. It's what we see is that back in the last recession, or the last real big one in 2008 and 9, 60 out of 1,200 the world's largest companies came out as winners. And we already see that people with high simulation maturity, they have been able to continue to work with the full workforce working from home, being able to develop products, even though it's very difficult to do the physical development, they can continue to simulate and bring the projects forward that with a much higher pace than competition. So yes, I certainly see that simulation maturity makes a big difference when it comes to take a step forward with your company based on simulation as a driver for development work, and also reuse it in terms of services optimization projects, for example.
You mentioned the simulation leadership forum already. Can you tell shortly something more about that and how it's connected to simulation maturity?
I certainly can. It's something I must say, I really burn for it. And again, I share my screen. It's a forum that started in 2013. Then the name was the Simulation Integration Management Workshop. It has developed in the last 3 years. It developed very fast. And this year we expect something like 100 people joining the workshop, provided that we can run it physically. This is a forum where we discuss all these things that are challenging, where there is no experience from the industry. There are emerging best practices, and the whole idea is that people can meet and discuss simulation strategies, how to organize around simulations to get the most out of it, and how to manage the change and the teams that emerge from such a change. But I think the main thing here is it's a networking event where people from different industries meet each other, share experiences, present to other companies how they've done it, get feedback on how they did it. And we know that after the last Simulation Leadership Forum in 2019, there were a lot of meetings afterwards between people from these companies, because they wanted to engage even further with each other to get an even better understanding and more speed in their simulation and change management work.
Great. Thank you very much, Marcus. That was very interesting to hear, and it was a pleasure to have you as a guest in this episode. So thank you, and thank you for all viewers as well.
Thank you very much.